everyone. My name is Silas Hollahorn, and my topic today is juveniles should be charged as adults in the crimes they commit. I do have a few questions to ask, and does anyone know what a juvenile delinquency is? Or did you ever have like the thought that a kid under the age of 18 or anyone below the age of 18 could commit serious crimes? I have a few definitions. A juvenile is a person who is under the age of 18. Delinquency is the wrongful, illegal, and antisocial behavior. And prosecute is to institute legal proceedings against a person. So one problem I have is some juveniles getting away with crimes that they commit because they weren't committed as adults, or they're just being held in juvenile detention centers. Most people will assume that juveniles aren't likely to commit serious crimes such as murder, robberies, or domestic abuse on all their loved ones or just anyone around them. But the evolution of how social media or just things that the kids are growing up around is changing, and it's affecting their behaviors and what they're choosing to do with their lives. I want to talk about the case of two 17-year-old twins. These twins were able to lure two men to meet up with them. One knew one of the men, and the other one met over a dating site. That's the first problem right there. She's 17, but she's on a dating site. These two girls met these men, and they proceeded to kidnap, and they beat, robbed, and almost killed one of them. These two girls were taken and charged as adults at first, but after looking into the case more, they were taken out of adult detention and they were moved down to juvenile court. And now they're being held in juvenile detention center. If these two girls just waited a few more months because they committed this just right before their 18th birthday, they would have been in prison. These girls would have served a lot or a few years in prison. Instead, they're only serving a few months in juvenile detention and will probably be put on probation. One more effect that this has is, it causes a lot of pain to the families, especially when it came to the school shootings. The families, after it happens, the families will be sitting there asking themselves, like, what were the signs? What could they have done? Could they have prevented this? And this leads, like, the parents of these individuals to go into depression or start doing things like drinking or drugs. And then you got the same thing for the victims' families that also, like, if they should have saw signs or not. Another problem with juveniles doing serious crimes is games. They're getting involved with games at the ages of what I've learned so far is some of these kids are getting into games as low as the age of 8. And what these games are having them do is they're not having them do the killing, but what they're having them do is do robberies or selling of drugs. And the reason for this is a juvenile will get sent to a detention center for juveniles for maybe up to 90 days or a few months. So once they're out after those 90 days, they can just get right back to selling drugs again. Or as if it was an adult, they could be sent to jail for a few years, and this causes the gang to lose on profit. The solution I have or a couple solutions is up the times of these juveniles, up their serving times, or either start putting them on probation. Having this would scare or put like a fear into other juveniles thinking of going into this life, because it'll make them think more seriously, because they're probably thinking they can only go to juvie for 90 days and they'll be back out, they can start doing this or that again. But if we start showing them that we're taking this more serious, we're upping these times, or upping their charges, and they're starting to serve a couple of years in prison, this will hopefully put fear into juveniles starting to think like this. Another solution would be providing programs, or like group gatherings, or whatever you call it. Because most of these, from what I found out, all these kids that go into the games, they have nothing else to do. They're either dropouts, or they just don't want to go to school, they don't want to find jobs, so they get bored, or they have broken families, so they just want a sense of belonging somewhere, or they want to have a title for themselves. So that's what causes these guys to join the games. I would say if we have more like open gyms, or like maybe part-time jobs that lower the age limit, just to keep these kids busy throughout their days. An argument though is keeping these kids in juvenile court helps them have the rehabilitation so they can become proper members of society. Because if they get sent to prison, the rehabilitation isn't as strong. They're just there serving time. But in juvenile court, they work on the why, what's causing it, and they want the best from it. The forecast that I have for these, if we start implementing more of these opportunities for these kids, there'll be less crimes, there'll be less chances of these kids going out, killing, selling drugs, being part of gangs. We'll have more people wanting to work. They can become proper members of society. They can lead generations to come. Hopefully have a bright future. A couple steps that I would like to do, like call to action, would be is to start watching our kids more, talking to them, communicate with them. You know, if you see your kid's attitude starting to change, or their appearance is starting to change, just sit down, have a conversation with them, see what's going on, see what's troubling them. Another step would be is, if school's the problem, then sit down, go over the lesson with them, see if you can help them in any way, or sign them up for tutoring.